Wake up, check your phone, work, consume, sleep, repeat. You move through this sequence every single day, assuming you are the one calling the shots. But if you were pressed to prove that you actually wrote this script yourself, could you? Think about the life you are living right now in terms of real estate. You might assume you own the property, holding the deed to your choices and your time. But for most of us, we are merely renting the space. We are tenants in our own existence, living under terms dictated by a landlord we can't even see. Philosophers refer to the opposite of this passive state as the sovereignty of the will, or in Turkish, iradenin egemenliği. It is the concept that an individual holds absolute, unquestioned jurisdiction over their own decisions. This diagram shows a glowing sphere representing the core self, surrounded by a hollow ring. That empty ring represents unexercised willpower. To understand why we lose our jurisdiction over our decisions, we have to treat the mind like a system of physics. And in psychology, just like in physics, nature abhors a vacuum. The precise moment you stop actively deploying your willpower, that space doesn't remain empty. It is immediately flooded by outside forces rushing in at high speed to fill the void. Moving through life without deliberate intent doesn't stop your forward momentum. It simply demotes you. You go from being the director of your own story to a passive extra, reading lines written by your environment. The reason we surrender this control comes down to basic biology. The human brain consumes an immense amount of calories. To survive, it is hardwired to seek the path of least resistance to conserve energy. We often describe the sensation of yielding to this biology as going with the flow. It feels comfortable. It mimics the sensation of freedom. But yielding to comfort is the exact mechanism by which we hand over our autonomy. This split-screen chart illustrates the biological math. On the left, you see the steeply rising energy cost required to make an independent, sovereign choice. On the right, the flat line shows the zero energy cost of simply complying with your environment. Because compliance is so biologically cheap, we let hidden variables make the expensive calculations for us. The expectations of our family members, the rigid definitions of success created by society, and the highly optimized algorithms on our devices do the heavy lifting. These forces don't invade your mind by force. They simply reach over and hold the steering wheel while the conscious driver opts to take a nap. Indecision is an active process. When you choose not to decide, you are actively assigning your sovereignty to whoever happens to be standing nearby. The concept of irade terbiyesi, or will discipline, is rarely understood correctly. It is often sold as a trick to work longer hours or hit a gym target. Its actual purpose is to serve as a defensive weapon used to sever the strings of external control. True will discipline is the daily, deliberate practice of increasing your tolerance for cognitive discomfort. It is the habit of making the high-energy, independent choice, even when a zero-energy option is readily available. Every time you say no to a minor, trivial distraction, you add a small amount of resistance to your cognitive muscle. Over time, those micro-decisions compound, building the strength required to defend yourself against major manipulations later on. A highly trained will acts as a psychological firewall. It blocks unauthorized access to your core identity, stopping external pressures before they shape your behavior. Cultivating this severe willpower is the only known method for evicting the influences that currently live rent-free inside your head. When an individual actively reclaims the deed to their time and decisions, a distinct shift occurs. The burden of constant environmental pressure lifts, replaced entirely by the weight of personal accountability. We often confuse freedom with the chaotic ability to do whatever we feel like in the present moment. True freedom is the exact opposite. It is the power to dictate your own long-term rules and the discipline to enforce them on yourself. Establishing your will draws hard borders around your identity, separating your sovereign territory from the surrounding noise. Once external pressures hit these borders, they can no longer invade. They must ask for a visa, and you retain the absolute right to deny entry. You are left with a binary choice. You either endure the friction of training your willpower, or you accept the alternative, forfeiting the trajectory of your existence to whoever is willing to dictate it. Reclaiming absolute authorship of your choices requires immense energy and consistent defense, but it ensures that the life you live actually belongs to you.